up as far as you can see its bumper.
Got a bird's eye view, and it certainly doesn't look good from up here.
The tank is full, the engine's humming. Those wide open roads are beckoning. So sit back and get ready for Motoring 88. Brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will. This week on Motoring 88.
Most people will drive right around the very sharp angle around the inside of the corner. Of course, this presents a problem.
I've photographed other sports, but the car racing to me is by far the most exciting, the most colorful and brilliant to photograph. I really enjoy it.
And now your favorite test, Brad. We're going to run it through the pylons to see how well the Saab handles.
With the advances in technology that we have in the auto business today and the better materials we have to work with, yes, we can repair more than we ever repaired before.
Well, when I was young many years ago, they called these billy boots. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Motoring 88. Okay, I'm not going to win any fashion contest this week, but believe me, I am dressed for work. Now, if you're a regular viewer of Motoring 88, which I'm sure you are, you know that from time to time, we like to highlight a classic car. Well, look what we've got this week, a 1934 Plymouth. And with me is Fred Furman, the owner, and Fred is the reason I'm wearing these silly clothes. You see, Fred said we can show you the car if I...
wash it, clean it, make it sparkle.
I knew there had to be a catch. Tell me a little bit about this car.
I just got a 327 out of a 65 Corvette, 4-speed manual transmission, souped up and ready to go.
And you really want me to wash it?
I want it to sparkle, that's the deal.
I know, and I bet you get a lot of people wanting to take pictures of this car, which leads us nicely into our first story. Here's Steve Grant.
Beside the driver, no one has a better vantage point at the racetrack than the photographer. Jan Bigelow has been looking down her zoom lens for more than 12 years. It started out as a hobby.
I went to my first Grand Prix in '74, actually, as a spectator with my parents. And in '76, I got a pass to go to a race, and I took a camera and started to take pictures, and I sold something from the first roll. So I thought, oh, this is a great job, very easy, no problem. And 12 years later, I've learned that it really isn't quite what I thought it would be at the beginning. I think I've had to learn more than a lot of photographers about the mechanics of the engines, the mechanics of the cars. I think I've had to learn more technical things so that I can carry on a conversation with just about every type of person on the track to be taken seriously.
Yeah, and we need photographs of them as well when they're in the slipstream.
Well, I can do that from home. Outside, and I can get a tower shot, so I can play the above as well.
Okay, fine. Thanks very much.
Awesome.
Let's go and see what we do then.
To a certain extent, I would consider her one of the guys. I don't like the term because she is her own woman. I would like to see more women involved in motorsports. In fact, in the National Motorsports Association that we're all in, the American Racing Press Association, she's only one of maybe 4 women in all of North America that are in the organization. And she is one of the true professionals in North America.
I think Jan's strong enough. She can still act as herself, and people take her at that. She's a strong enough personality that she doesn't have to conform to anybody. She's just herself. She's treated like one of the guys because we can't get away with too much because she would give it right back. I mean, she's not going to take anything from anybody.
Down here clearing everything out, ma'am. I've been down there.
Okay.
All right? It's a new rule for 1988. That's all I can tell you.
I don't know if it's macho or ego, and I think my ego is probably as big as anybody else's. So I don't know if macho's the real case. You know, I think it's a lot of big egos, and you have to be really pumped, and it's the same for anybody in this business. You have to be really confident about what you're doing to go out and do it consistently when the going gets tough, and it does. I mean, it's tiring work. It's definitely exciting, that's for sure. The glamour part, which I never really thought was in there, I think I've been involved in sports too long to think it was glamorous. It is a high burnout as far as photographers go because the equipment is so heavy. It's just incredibly heavy. Like, I know my camera bag weighs at least 50 pounds, and I don't want to weigh it because I don't want to know for sure how much it weighs, but your knees, elbows, back start to go, and you see a lot of photographers who are either just leave or they get involved in other areas, and I think that's what I would do. I mean, I've photographed other sports, but the car racing to me is by far the most exciting, the most colorful and brilliant to photograph. I really enjoy it. I love to do portraits of the drivers, especially when they don't know I'm there. I mean, the standard mug shots that you do are really boring, I think, and I would rather not do them. But I love to use a long lens and sort of sneak up and get portraits of the drivers when they're really thinking about what they're doing.
For the danger element, you're standing on the side of the track and those cars are coming within 3 feet of the wall, 160. How do you ever get scared? Or do you still get scared?
Regularly. You see they're going, oh boy, I don't like that too much. Last year, or 2 years ago here, I guess, we were all out on one of the corners and I thought, they're running a bit high, I don't like this. And I stepped down and 2 minutes later a car went into the wall and all the photographers were ducked down underneath the wall and bits and pieces were flying over. And yeah, you know, there's times you just sit there going, you know, well, a few words you can't say on television when they start coming for you, but it's there.
Didn't you see me earlier in the year on that NBC white paper? I was on for about 30 seconds.
The best thing is camaraderie. I mean, it's a big family. You go all over the world, and wherever you go, you see the same people at every event, but in, you know, like a different venue. And I think that's one of the best things, is sharing a lot of different experiences with the same people. I really enjoy that. And a lot of them are like family in one way. I see them more than I do see my own family. It's the largest spectator sport in the world. Bigger than soccer, bigger than baseball. It is the biggest. And I mean, look at the Indy 500. There are 450,000 people there on race day. You know, like only the Pope is bigger. And even in the second biggest single day spectator event is the first day of qualifying at Indy, and there are 200,000 people. So, you know, I think it's underestimated still a bit. And same with the media. I think the media really underestimated a lot, but there's an awful lot of interest, you know.
So you still get a rush?
Oh, I love it. I love it. You know, there's a lot of things that frustrate me, and you know, there's days where you're just as tired as anything, but I can't imagine doing anything else at all.
Most embarrassing moment behind the wheel. I think when I was learning and I went for the brake and hit the accelerator instead and hit the car ahead of me, but I think that happens to just about everybody once in a while.
We were in this road in Labrador City, Newfoundland, which there's a lot of snow, and I thought the road went to the right, but it didn't. It was somebody's yard.
One time a friend of mine, which I forgot to pick up, had his coat hanging out the bottom of the passenger side of the door, and I drove about 5 miles with it hanging out the bottom. He wasn't there, but his coat was.
I think my most embarrassing moment behind the wheel was one New Year's, many years ago, when I professed to be able to drive a Standard, and with 3 women in the car, I came up lame. I couldn't get it together that night.
I'm embarrassed all the time, really. Just to be out there, I'm embarrassed.
Still ahead on Motoring 88, the state-of-the-art equipment in Canada's body shops are making cars that were once a write-off repairable.
Next on Motoring 88, scrutinizing the Saab.
The Porsche engine in the Quaker State Indy car performs at a punishing 11,000 RPM. That's why it takes Quaker State motor oil with new QSX to protect it. The same motor oil you can buy for your family car. Now you'll receive a $3.50 manufacturer's refund when you buy a 12-liter case of Quaker State motor oil. But hurry, because the offer is good only until June 30th, 1988. Hey, come back here, my oil! The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
What exactly does Nissan mean by hard body truck? Well, let's say you want a V6 engine. A powerful V6 engine. What exactly does Nissan mean by hard body truck? Well, let's say you want to help someone move.
Test Drive with Graham Fletcher.
So Graham, what are we test driving this week?
Well, Brad, you're in for a real treat. We're doing the Saab 9000 Turbo. Under the hood, we've got a 2-litre 16-valve turbocharged engine that puts out an awful lot of horsepower for the size of the engine.
This is an expensive car.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a luxury car. One of the nicest things that I like about this car is the way in which it rides and handles. When we go back to the skid pan, you'll see just why everybody raves about anti-lock brakes. It's a system where the vehicle will not allow the wheels to lock up. And the beauty of it is that you don't lose steering control. I mean, that is perfect.
And you were in a straight line.
Yep. I mean, even if we had to maneuver around somebody that stepped out in front of us, because we hadn't locked the wheels up, we can still steer around them. If you lock the wheels up, you're sunk.
So even under these conditions, they work.
Oh yes, definitely. Let's try the 0 to 100 kilometer an hour time now. You'll notice initially it's going to be sluggish, and then when the turbo kicks in, look out.
Let's go.
Feel it right there. Yep. And now your favourite test, Brad. We're going to run it through the pylons to see how well the Saab handles.
You're not worried about the slippery conditions?
It's understeering a little bit, but it's not bad at all. It's a beautiful car. It's nice and tight. No problem at all. This week, rather than a pet peeve, I have a suggestion. If you're going to buy the 9000 Turbo, go for the automatic version. During our testing, I found the clutch action too heavy and the fact that the shifter is very vague. When I tested the automatic version, you lose nothing because this is a very capable vehicle. Let's go to the scoreboard and see how I rated the 9000 Turbo. The Saab 9000 Turbo is one of the best all-round cars I've tested to date. As usual, the anti-lock brake system came to the rescue, and so I awarded a very high 8 out of 10. Handling department, excellent, no problems. Acceleration, what more can you say when you've got a turbo and a 2-litre 16-valve engine under the hood? The sound level inside is extremely quiet and more than satisfactory. The fuel economy, if you put your foot into it, you're going to suffer. But if you drive it normally, no problem.
Next week on Test Drive, a 1988 Buick Regal.
Steering through a corner. This way or this way? Which is safer? Later on behind the wheel.
When Motoring 88 returns, Bill Gardner cools down.
Yep, this is definitely a beauty. I wonder if Fred left the keys in the car. No, I better not. Oh well. I wonder if Bill Gardner's ever worked on a car like this. Knowing Bill, he'll probably tell me he wasn't even born when this car came out. And that reminds me, Bill's subject this week, I believe, is about radiators and the cooling system.
This week we're going to talk about cooling systems. There's a number of components involved in the car's cooling system. The water pump, belts, pulleys, fan, thermostat, radiator hose, radiator pressure cap, and of course the radiator. And that's what we're going to talk about this week. As you can see, we've got a number of radiators around the shop here, and we're going to show you how a radiator works to cool the engine. Hot water exits the engine through the upper rad hose, floods this tank, penetrates all these core tubes, giving up its heat into the cooling fins and then into the air that's passing through the radiator, collects in this tank, and exits the radiator via the lower rad hose back to the water pump. Here we have a couple of units with classic examples of radiator failure. Disintegrated cooling fins and loose cooling fins. Using a ballpoint pen, inspect the fins. That fin's loose, no heat transfer from the core tube to the fin and into the air. No connection. This condition can allow the coolant to pass through the radiator without giving up any of its heat, re-enter the engine just as hot as it left. That's going to damage your engine. This radiator, the fins don't look nearly as bad as the other one, but we've removed the tank to show you the core tubes. They're severely restricted with calcium blockage. That's going to cut down the flow of coolant and cause your engine to overheat. If you want to inspect for this condition, you've got to lower the level of the coolant in the radiator so that you can see the top 10 or 12 rows of tubes. Look in there with a flashlight through the filler neck and see if this calcium has plugged these core tubes. Most people believe that the only thing that constitutes radiator failure is an actual fluid leak, but in both these instances, neither one of these radiators leaked a drop, but neither one cooled their engines. Which brings us to our next point, coolant. Part of your weekly fluid inspection under the hood should be radiator coolant level. Remove the radiator cap with the engine cold, of course, set it aside, If it's not full, fill it up with equal parts of antifreeze and water, and then move to the coolant overflow tank. Make sure that it's at least half full, again with 50-50 mixture of antifreeze and water. Next week we're going to look at a nifty little addition to your cooling system, a transmission oil cooler. Could be your transmission's best friend in the hot weather. Until then, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 88.
And now, behind the wheel with Charlie Goodman.
Here we are at Shannonville Motorsport Park. The technique that we are going to discuss today is how to go around a corner. It's the same on the racetrack or on the street. I'm now facing a left-hand bend. Left-hand bends, right-hand bends, the technique is still the same. What we wish to do is eliminate the problem that most people think that on a left-hand bend, they should be well over here on the left-hand side of the road, which represents security. Everyone knows that if you lose control of your car, you slide off to the outside. So most people will drive right around the very sharp angle around the inside of the corner. Of course, this presents a problem. In order to keep the car in as tight as this on the left, it requires an immense amount of steering angle. The more steering angle that you use, the less ability that your tires have in reserve to help you survive in the event of a potential accident or a skid. Now, follow me and we'll go across to the outside of the corner where you should be starting the corner from, and we'll look at the different angle. The angle now is far more open. In fact, we have almost taken this bend and opened it right up and made it about as straight as we possibly can. We are taking the largest constant radius through the corner, from as far over to the left, or to the right side, I'm sorry, as you can possibly get, in very tight to the center, and then come out wide again. Remember though, here we are speaking about only the amount of roadway that you can safely use. We're not suggesting that you go over on the other side of the road into oncoming traffic. That just does not make sense. Now we're going to go and we're going to jump in a car and you'll follow me as we drive through this corner. The first time through, we will purposely do it incorrectly so that you can observe the immense amount of steering angle required and compare it to the corner when we do it properly. Now, you will watch that in order to go around the corner, I have had to turn the steering wheel and see if you can make a mental picture of that amount of steering angle. Once again, we are approaching our left-hand corner, but this time a significant difference. We are as far as we can safely get to the right-hand side of our lane or the road. This allows us to enter the corner with considerably less steering angle, and you will note that this is as much as I'm going to turn the steering wheel. That brings us right across to the very inside of the corner, and if we maintain that steering angle, brings us to the outside of the corner, we can unwind the steering wheel and accelerate safely down the roadway, merging with oncoming traffic. A far better approach to the corner. There is much more to learn about corners. Indeed, there is a place to go slow and a place to go fast. Next week on Behind the Wheel.
Traffic, congestion, people who don't know how to, I guess lack of courtesy, I guess is the most important thing. I think a lot of the congestion would be solved if people would just give other people a break, that's all.
Well, woke up this morning, looked out the window, and my car wasn't there. It had been towed. Towed away.
Oh, please, keep me away from the city. Keep me away from the city, I love it.
It's car drivers swinging their doors open without looking as I'm riding by on my bicycle. I've already been hit twice this summer doing that.
People that make sudden turns and don't use their signals. They just kind of pull out and they drive around. They seem lost and they pull U-turns in front of you, mostly taxis and things like that.
I think cab drivers, most of the majority of them are excellent drivers. It's just that the normal driver seems to be more or less a Sunday driver, Monday through Friday, and I think that's the major problem.
Next on Motoring 88, giving a wreck a facelift.
The Porsche engine in the Quaker State Indy car performs at a punishing 11,000 RPM. That's why it takes Quaker State motor oil with new QSX to protect it. The same motor oil you can buy for your family car. Now you'll receive a $3.50 manufacturer's refund when you buy a 12-liter case of Quaker State motor oil. But hurry, because the offer is good only until June 30th, 1988. Hey, back here, right off! The big Q stands for quality. always has, always will.
Boy, the things I get myself into. I don't know where Fred went to, but he did mention something about grabbing himself a cold one. But a deal's a deal, right? And the show must go on. So let's now join our Sandra Neal. And Sandra has a story all about the body shop.
Now, that used to be a Nova. This scrapyard is where cars end up that mechanics have given up on or body shops have refused. But not all vehicles end up this way.
Hi, Gib. How are you? Good. Oh, boy, this is quite a bit of damage you got here, eh?
Yeah, it's still drivable.
Okay, well, if you drop it here, we'll run it into the shop, and I'll prepare an estimate for the insurance company right away and
Bill.
get the thing on our machine. Very good.
Body shops have improved a great deal in their technology. They'll likely fix the car a lot faster today than they would have then. In Britain, they discard a lot of cars when they get a severe impact, where in Canada and in the United States, we tend to repair more vehicles than other countries because of the fact that we have much greater technology than other countries in this field.
Well, this vehicle was going through an intersection, and an impaired driver come through, hit 4 other cars, careened off, and as you can see, demolished the side of this vehicle. This is a heavy impact, but it's not badly damaged in the sense that the worst distortion is in the center pillar and the rocker and the roof on this side. These parts we will all replace, so it will come back without too much trouble to its original estate.
We find that in today's vehicles, because of the price of parts, they are totaled a lot quicker. This vehicle suffered an impact right almost to the middle doorpost area here. The 2 doors are badly damaged, as is the rocker panel, and the floor is pushed in against the seat. The back quarter panel is also badly damaged. This type of a vehicle is a 1979 Malibu, and because of its age and the relative condition of some rusting, it'll need paint soon. This car would be considered a total loss.
So you wouldn't send this to the body shop, Wayne?
No, if this car was a 1987 or 88, it certainly would be repairable. Possibly even as an 86, it would be repairable. This Pontiac suffered an impact possibly right here. It's pushed the fender rearward into the door jamb area. As you can see, there's some damage here. There's also some suspension damage in through the wheel area. The front end sheet metal and the unibody have been compromised as it's been moved over to the left-hand side. Now, this is a late model car, and from the type of damage it's got, it certainly would be repairable.
Really? Now, it looks worse than it probably is then, does it?
That's right. We're going to change a few parts, and we're going to put it on a unibody bench and give it a pull, and it'll straighten right out. I think that these machines would certainly help with these front-wheel drive and unibody vehicles that we now have. Those same machines, of course, have certainly helped. People seem to be better trained to operate these machines today than they were 10 years ago. Technology in Canada and the United States has come ahead by at least 100% in the last 10 years.
This is a new machine which we have here, and with the advances in technology that we have in the auto business today and the better materials we have to work with, yes, we can repair more than we ever repaired before. Yeah, this is one of the more modern MIG welders. It's a Hobart MIG. It's a low distortion. It's 10 times faster than brazing, and with the new metals in the cars today, you must have this almost state-of-the-art welding equipment. It doesn't distort the metal, it doesn't take the temper out of the metal, and it's very strong bonding.
We're saving more and more vehicles now rather than writing them off. Any vehicle that you repair today has to stand on its own merits. It's a simple matter that if the vehicle's repair and the value of it are in such a way that the vehicle can be repaired, then it is. And if the damage is too much, then the vehicle should be written off.
Well, Fred, the job's done. And you know something, ladies and gentlemen, you have to admit, this 34 Plymouth has never looked better. Well, that's it for this week, but before we go, Fred has to fulfill his end of the deal. And the deal was I wash the car, but I also get a ride in it. So Fred, let's go.
Next week on Motoring 88.
They're not building racetracks like this anymore. The tendency seems to be to build point and squirt tracks where you tiptoe through the corners and go like heck on the straightaways. Well, this racetrack was built for real racers.
These vehicles are put away in the winter and they get them out and they just want to drive them. Most people take these to work in the summertime and just drive them and have a good time.
It handles very nicely. That sort of soft float on air ride has gone.
If you have any questions or suggestions, drop us a line at Motoring 88, 379 Danforth Avenue, Toronto, M4K 1P1. Motoring 88 is brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.